We are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is for week 4 of our English class at Suncheon University. Congratulations. This is the week of Chuseok, so a very, very happy Chuseok to you and all of your family. I hope you're going to enjoy your food this week, and I hope that you're going to enjoy learning about the food in this lesson. So, without further ado, let's get started and let's have some fun in our lesson today. Today, we're going to talk about Unit 6 from our book, which is the Speak Now 2 book. We're going to talk about first, you grill the bread, and we're going to talk about food and the different ways we do things with food. So let's get started. To start off today, we're going to look at some vocabulary about how you cook the food. Now, how you cook food is very, very important. You may think, well, hey, I'm just going to cook it any way that I can. And yes, you can do that, but certain foods that you cook, you should cook in certain ways because it will help change the taste of the food. And believe me, it can really change just by changing one or two small things. For example, you can grill meat. Now, there are many ways that you can grill the meat, but grilling usually means you have metal, some kind of metal container, and then you have fire coming up from underneath, where the fire can actually touch the meat a little bit. Think about going out and having some nice kalbi or a steak. That's usually how we grill food. Now, when we bake, now baking and steaming, which are two of the words here, are almost exactly the same, except baking is dry heat and steam is wet heat. So it's almost the same process. You're making the box or container that you're cooking in very, very hot. But one is dry, there's no water, very little moisture. And the other one, lots of moisture, almost all hot boiling water. You then get to the other two that are almost the same, frying and boiling. Now, frying means that you're cooking usually in a pan. It can be on a big stove as well, but usually in a pan, and you're usually going to be cooking with some kind of oil. Now, you can cook with butter, lard, or any of the number of oils. I use vegetable oil and olive oil when I cook. I like the taste of them, but you can use grapeseed oil or any oil that you want. Just don't use car oil. No, don't cook with car oil. Yeah. That would just be
No, God, please.
That would just be an epic, problem. You don't want to deal with that. You want to go ahead and you want to deal with the stuff as you see it. All right. You want to cook with a special oil. Now, frying, now there's regular frying with just a little bit of oil, just enough to make the pan not stick to the food, but you can also deep fry. Now, when you deep fry something, you're going to submerge whatever you're cooking completely in oil. Its twin, or its cousin, I should say, is boiling. When you boil, you're cooking it in hot water. Now, they're not exactly the same processes. Mechanically, they're the same, but they're not the same when you're cooking. And be very careful because frying usually makes things crispy and hard on the outside, and boiling makes things soft on the outside. When you're boiling, for example, here in this picture here, you see boiling noodles for spaghetti. Here's a tip when you're cooking spaghetti. Put some salt in the water. Now, I know this makes you, why would I want to put salt in the water? I'm not going to use the water. It helps the pasta cook better. Don't ask me the chemistry of why it happens, but it does make things taste better when you use it. Also, here's a second tip. When you're cooking spaghetti specifically, and you want to add water to your sauce, don't just use tap water. Use the water from the spaghetti noodles. It's got a little bit of starch in it, a little bit of salt. Add a little bit to your sauce. I guarantee your sauce will taste, so much more better. Now, steaming. You may ask, why is steaming and boiling and frying, why do I need to know about these for chemistry? Well, Here's a hint. Certain vegetables are better if you cook them a certain way. For example, let's think about kimchi. Kimchi, very popular here in Korea. And if you want to make kimchi taste the best, I want you to think about when you go and have samgyeopsal. You cook samgyeopsal, you got all that pork cooking and all that grease coming down, and then you cook the kimchi into it. It makes the kimchi taste really, really good. Why? Well, it has to do with the flavor molecules. The flavor molecules in kimchi come from cabbage, and the cabbage flavor molecules are locked in the water. That's why when you put the kimchi in, say, kimchi jjigae, all of a sudden the kimchi really has, it doesn't have a lot of taste. The kimchi will taste the water. The water will taste great. The soup part tastes great. But the kimchi itself, the cabbagey taste, it kind of loses its taste because the water molecules come out of the cabbage and flavor the water. So if you're going to cook cabbage, you should cook cabbage with a little bit of oil, not water. Unless you want the water flavored, but if you want to taste the flavor of the cabbage, you usually want to use oil. On the other side, there are some that you want to use water with because it'll help it taste better. So experiment with it. Have a little fun. Now, the last way of cooking that's on here is microwaving. And you may be surprised, you can cook so many things in microwaves.
6 hours later.
You can cook just about anything in a microwave. You just have to know how to do it. You'll be surprised, you can cook a cake in a microwave. Don't believe me? Look it up. All right, so think about how you cook food and how you like to have your foods cooked. Everybody has different ways that we like to have the foods cooked. Think about it. And even if you're not a cook or not a chef, hey, try it. I highly recommend that in college, learn to cook 5 different foods. Make a couple of cold things, make a soup, a salad, and about 3 different dishes. The reason that you do that, hey, when you make a good soup, good dish, you can cook it for other people. Even if it's just cooking kimchi jjigae or kimchi bokkeumbap, they're not hard to make. I've learned how to make them, and I make them all the time. And you can customize them to the way that you like it. You don't like having this in the kimchi jjigae? Don't put it in. You don't like that? Don't put it in. Oh, I do like that. Add it. So try some things out and learn to make about 5 different dishes so that you can cook, at least for yourself, and sometimes for other people as well. Now, we're going to listen to a conversation between Joel and Tara. Tara is actually making some kind of food, and if you follow her directions at least a little bit, you can make something that actually tastes pretty good. Brochette is a good thing to eat. I prefer garlic bread, but brochette is a close second.
What are you making?
Bruschetta. Have you tried it?
No. How do you make it?
First, grill the bread. Make sure you grill both sides. Then rub the bread with garlic.
Okay. It smells good.
Next, pour olive oil on the bread. Don't pour too much, just a little. After that, put on some chopped tomatoes. Finally, add salt, pepper, and basil leaf. Try one.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes.
Absolutely, that is delicious. One thing that she didn't mention about the olive oil, if you look at the picture, it says extra virgin olive oil. That's the one that you want to use when you're going to eat it directly. If you're going to cook with olive oil, it can be almost any olive oil. But when you're going to eat it without cooking it, try to get extra virgin olive oil. It makes it taste a little bit better. All right, now listen to it again. This time they're going to change a couple of lines. Add those missing lines into this conversation.
What are you making?
Bruschetta. Have you tried it?
No. How do you make it?
First, grill the bread. Make sure you grill both sides. Then rub the bread with garlic. Do this right away.
Okay, it smells good.
Next, pour olive oil on the bread. Don't pour too much, just a little. After that, put on some chopped tomatoes. Finally, add salt, pepper, and a basil leaf. Try one. You'll love it.
Amazing! Now, one of the things that she said is to only put a little bit of olive oil. Here's a tip. You got the bottle of oil, don't just pour the oil right onto it. Two things you can do. Put the oil into a small little bowl and brush it on. You don't have the brush, you don't have a smaller bowl, just put your finger on the end of the bottle and it'll help slow down the flow of the oil. Just a small little cooking tip. Yes, I love to cook. All right, now we're going to talk about, in this lesson, we're talking about putting things in order, how you tell us what's going to be happening first, second, and so on. We're going to put things in order. So we're going to start off and we're going to say, first you're going to do this, then second you do this, and
6 hours later.
finally you do this. These are the things that you want to work on getting instructions. Now, think about something simple that you can make. For example, a sandwich. Let's make a simple sandwich. First you get the bread, then you get whatever condiments you want on it. The condiments are the extra things you put on, like mayonnaise, mustard, or ketchup. These are the things that you put onto your sandwich. Whatever sandwich you want to make, you get your bread, you get whatever you're going to put on the sandwich. I personally like to make ham sandwiches, so I'll tell you about a ham sandwich. You get the bread. First you get the bread, put a little bit of mustard on one bread and mayonnaise on the other bread. Then you put a slice of ham onto the whichever piece of bread you want, a slice of cheese. Then you can add a slice of tomato. I personally like a slice of onion as well, and then a slice of lettuce. Put the breads together and enjoy your sandwich. That's not a very hard sandwich to make, but it's one that I enjoy making. So when you put things in order and you make a recipe, you use the signposts. First, second, next, this, then, finally, in the end. These are called signposts. You're going to use them as you're making your recipe. Be sure to use things like, make sure you do this, or, hey, don't forget, remember to do this. There are some tips and tricks that can make something taste much better when you do them. For example, the difference between using real butter versus using margarine. For some things, you won't be able to tell the difference, but for many things, using real butter is better than using margarine. But it all comes down to your personal choice. Now, we're going to talk on about, I skipped a page, excuse me, could I go back? No, I didn't skip a page, I got it right. All right, so now we're going to number these different steps from 1 to 5, and then take an idea of how you would put these different ideas together and where they would go. We're going to talk about how you put them in order. So you've got, add the water to the pot, put an egg in the pot. Think about what you're going to do first. So this is going to be, how do you boil an egg? Now you may say, boil an egg, that's easy. You'd be surprised how many people have a hard time boiling an egg. But look at this. Try to put the steps in order: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then instructions. When you're thinking about instructions, we'll talk about this after the Chuseok holiday. After that class, we'll talk about how to make a recipe and to give the directions to your partners. Now let's talk about pronunciation. Now, some English words, actually a lot of them, have blended sounds at the beginning. It usually involves the letters S, M, T, H, F, G, R, and L. These letters in English, we blend them together a lot. And so these words here, listen to how they're pronounced. Listen to how they're said and practice them. It's not important that they become perfect, but be careful of how you pronounce them.
Page 15. Pronunciation. A. Listen and practice. Notice how the two consonant sounds at the beginning of a word are pronounced together. Each of these words is one syllable. 1,
Smell.
2,
Skip.
3,
Spice.
4,
Steam.
5,
Snack.
6,
Fry.
7.
Glad.
All right. Now, we're going to practice in class. We're going to practice some tongue twisters. And the tongue twisters are going to be designed to help you pronounce words and get better at it. Sometimes pronouncing words can be very tricky. So please slice some bread. Never skip breakfast. Put a snack on a plate. Try practicing those a few times. Try finding some tongue twisters that you find difficult because they will help you practice and make your pronunciation better. Now, think about how you explain your favorite snack. For those of you who've been watching movies, one of the things that have come out has been the Marvel movie of Shang-Chi. And the lead actor in there spent a little bit of time explaining some of, in an interview, he explained to some of the people some of the snacks that he grew up with as a kid because his family was from Asia. So he tried many different snacks that were from Asia. And explaining some of those snacks to people who've never been to Asia can be a little bit difficult. For example, ramen. Now, in America, we have ramen. Ramen's everywhere. But it's not as good or as tasty as it is here in Korea. And you don't have the ramen snacks where you just crush it up, put the powder in it, and just eat the ramen dry. A lot of Westerners look at that and like, I think, no, I'm not going to eat that. But I've eaten it, and I like it. Some of them are very good. But these are snacks and many other snacks that come here in Asia that are different than those in America. So take a look at them. How would you describe the snacks? Especially for those of you who are my foreign students. What kind of snacks do you have in your country versus South Korea? Think about that. Now, let's talk about your workbook for this unit. Now, this workbook is very important. It's very simple and easy. The first part here, go back to those different ways that we cooked at the beginning of the book. Try to match them with the description of what's here. How would you match it? So to cook food in an oven is a hot box that you put food into. Or how do you cook food over high heat, usually a fire? Or what do you cook in a pan, often with a little bit of oil or butter or lard? Try to figure out which words go into the which blanks and write them in so that you can finish this part. Then, these questions are all about you. So how often do you eat cake? Now, one thing I want to mention about cake. Korean cake and American cake are so different. How do I put this? American cake is based on sugar, especially for the icing, where Korean cake is usually best on fresh cream or butter. Korean cakes usually have a very, very light icing, and their cakes are just a little sweet. You have an American style cake, I guarantee you, you're going to be like, oh my, there's so much sugar here. Yeah. I tried a cake when I went back home a few years ago, and I was just like, this is nice. It's really good. all sugar. Don't get me wrong, I like sugar, but not that much, at least not anymore. And then talk about other things. What is your favorite vegetable? Everybody has favorite vegetable that they like or don't like. My particular favorite vegetables, I like carrots and broccoli and celery. Those are my three favorite vegetables. I like them and I'll eat them anytime I can. Fish. Do you like to have your fish fried, baked, roasted, broiled? Wasn't one of the words in our things, but broiled means you cook it under the fire, or roasted. You can have fish cooked many different ways. And then which meal do you eat? Noodles, and what do you eat for breakfast? Answer these questions for you. There's no wrong answers here. The only wrong answer is a blank answer. All right, now imagine that you want a frozen dinner. Now, here in Korea, one of the biggest frozen dinners that you can get here is pizza. Go to a store, buy a frozen pizza, take it home, cook it. Hey, you're good to go. But in America, you can get a lot more frozen meals. Here with mandu and stuff, yeah, those are frozen, but you have actual full meals ready. I want you to pretend that you're going to make a frozen meal. What are the steps that you're going to do to cook that frozen meal? Include the different ingredients that you need. Include the different procedures you need to make it. And we'll use this in class after the Chuseok holiday. So make sure you have at least something written down here. The reading section. I'm going to read this out loud to talk about my favorite dish. So it says, my favorite dish. My mother makes my favorite dish. We call it Greek chicken. It's easy to make. First, you mix together 1/4 cup of olive oil, the juice from a lemon, and salt and pepper. Then you rub the mixture over the chicken. Next, put the chicken in the oven at 350 degrees for an hour. While it is cooking, put a can of chopped tomatoes, oregano, and half a stick of butter in a saucepan. Bring it to a boil and then turn it on low heat. After that, pour the tomato mixture over the chicken. Cook it for another hour until it's done. Then you serve it with noodles or rice. I also like it with green beans and green salad. It's even better the next day. Now, one of the things about this recipe, if you decide you want to make it yourself, there are two things you have to convert. One are cups and the other is temperatures. Cooking at 350 degrees Celsius, you're going to have a fire. Most ovens don't even go to 350 degrees. They go to about 300 at the highest, and that's hot. But you have to convert it from Fahrenheit to Celsius. 350 degrees, you're looking at about 150 degrees Fahrenheit. If you need the conversion, go look on the internet, but basically it's 9/5. It's the Fahrenheit temperature minus 32 multiplied by 5/9, and you'll get your, 5/9. 5 over 9, multiply by 5, divide by 9, you'll get the Celsius temperature. And a 1/4 cup of olive oil, you're looking at about 100 milliliters. But you can get the containers that have a 1/4 cup in them. But when you look at a recipe, be sure to check what the measurements are. And then put the steps in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order, and you'll be done. All right, important. This is the last section of today's book. Be sure you answer these two questions. If you leave them blank, I'm sorry, a blank is a 0, and it's minus 2 points off of your grade for not finishing this. But write the instructions on a recipe that you like. What is your favorite dish? Well, if you don't know how to make it, you can go out there and find it. Well, yes, you can. You can find it. I know you can. And when you do, it's going to be something that's going to be delicious. And we're going to have a good time eating it. This is going to lead us up into what we're going to do after Chuseok. The week after Chuseok, in our live action class, we're going to be having a potluck lunch on your second class after Chuseok. Don't think right away. I'll tell you more about it in class, but we will be doing a potluck lunch outside and enjoying some different foods from different people. But write the instructions. How do you make something? What do you put together? You can make something simple, a sandwich. How about just cooking ramen? Hey, don't go the simple route. Open ramen, pour in hot water, close top, open after 3 minutes, and eat. That's a little too simple. It works. It'll get you points on this, but try to be a little bit more creative. When we get to class, we'll talk about some different dishes that we can do in cooking. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up Unit 6, where we talked about cooking, the different styles, the different ways we can cook. Cooking is a lot of fun. Don't be afraid to try it. Have some fun, and I will see you again in our next class. So have a great and wonderful day. Enjoy your vacation, enjoy your holiday, and I will see you next time. Take care.